Welcome back to the Echoes podcast. I'm Jessica Smetana. He's Mike Golic Jr. And finally this week, Mike, we get to celebrate Notre Dame winning a football game. Please like the podcast, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, social media, the Echoes, Notre Dame podcast. But Mike, we're celebrating, but we're also perhaps, at least in my case, still rather concerned about this football team. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, I think first off, acknowledging, right? Winning games at this level is still always hard and something you need to appreciate.
Even if it's Purdue.
Even if it is Purdue at this stage, which, Barry Odom, I think is a good coach. That program, they talked about a lot of the broadcasts, like 80 new players this year, which is very much emblematic of where we are in college football. New programs tend to churn over rosters a lot. There were always going to be a lot of incoming freshmen, but with the portal stuff, it's just how it goes. And so it is open to things like this where Purdue's in a bit of a transition period. We were supposed to win this game, and we did. And so that is awesome. Notre Dame gets to feel good for the first time this season, getting to coach off of a win a lot better and a lot easier. But just to your point, where we're at in this season, coming off the first two games set up the way they were and understanding we don't have a huge margin for error at this point, and still seeing the unit in the Notre Dame defense that was the strength of the team last year look the way they did on Saturday, I can understand why Notre Dame fans and Notre Dame's head coach Marcus Freeman all don't feel great about what they saw. And Jess, I think that's kind of the place to start, right? Is even after a win like this, where you get through a 2-hour weather delay, your offense puts up over 50 points and looks sensational again, we saw very exasperated Marcus Freeman at the podium after this game. What did you take away from that? I think first and foremost, because Marcus, I think, kind of set the tone for the reaction that's followed from the fan base and will probably be from the team this week too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I thought that the post-game press conference was adequately unhappy with the performance by the defense. Like, I think as fans, you never want to see a coaching staff sort of brush it off and be like, well, Purdue had a touchdown in garbage time and it doesn't really matter because Notre Dame won by 26 points and they covered the spread. Who cares? They were adequately freaked out about what I think is the worst drive of the season for Notre Dame's defense, which is the 75-yard drive that Purdue went on right before halftime, which was not real halftime, but right before halftime, where they marched down the field in like 6 plays, scored a touchdown, completely outcoached Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense, and this is what Marcus Freeman really spent a lot of time talking about in the press conference, Notre Dame's defense on their heels the whole time, had no idea what they were supposed to be doing. I mean, there were a lot of players out of position. We'll break this down further because I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I thought that was a really bad microcosm of the things that have been wrong with this defense this whole season. And even though, like, if you take that drive out of the game and like throw it away and it never happens, maybe we all leave with a little bit better feeling about this, because Notre Dame, they held Purdue to 16 points before the half, even though there's a bad turnover in the first half. And then Purdue really didn't do anything in the second half till garbage time. So like those are all positive things if you're looking at it from far away. But when you look up close and you do see that drive, which did happen, that's bad. Like, that can't happen. And that's a total breakdown. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of freaking out happening. And I do also want to add, Notre Dame had to start 2 freshmen in this game, Mike. The fact that the injury bug has bitten Notre Dame this early in the season. We have Leonard Moore, who got rolled his ankle against Texas A&M. Devontae Smith, who was injured in the pregame warm-up. We talked about it last week. Like, that just sucks. He wasn't ready to play, but seemed like he was a little bit closer to coming back this weekend. Notre Dame's got to start Dallas Golden and Mark Zachary at nickel and in corner and move Christian Gray over to cover for Moore. And then Carson Hobbs just doesn't play at all. Like, I have a lot of questions about what's going on with the secondary, and none of them have great answers right now.
They don't. So I'll offer you this, Jess.
Talk me off a ledge. I'm going crazy right now.
I can feel the tension here, and I'm sure you are not alone. I have seen my mentions all weekend after this game. Like, this is very emblematic of where the fan base is at. So I'll just say this. Number one, we're 3 games into the season now. So it's a good enough sample size to where I think we can all start to look at and understand we've got to flip our brains. We are an offensive-led football team this year right now. Like, and CJ Carr, 10 of 12, 223 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game. Jeremiyah Love, career-high 157 yards rushing. Jadarian Price, 3 rushing touchdowns and a kickoff return touchdown in this game. The receiving room looks great. Jordan Faison had over 100 yards. Malachi Fields is a legitimate number 1. And I can't stress enough again, we've got a quarterback that's making it look easy right now. And I get against Purdue.
He's been really good.
He's been phenomenal, Jess. Better than I ever could have imagined, to the point where Kenny Minchie got in late in this game. I was legitimately fascinated because I wanted to see, what does the quarterback look like that pushed this guy all through camp? Again, we don't know the full framework internally of how that quarterback competition went, but it went late enough where on the outside I'm willing to buy it was legit. And with some of the flashes with Kenny Minchie, you can see why. But so that's been sensational. And we should all, I think, stop and appreciate that, because remember how much of last year we spent at the beginning of the season waiting for that first Riley Leonard passing touchdown, how much angst there was about the way the passing offense looked like. I don't want to take for granted that now all of a sudden we're not just doing this, but doing it at a high level to where when the ball's in the air, you expect good things at this point. That matters with where we're at offensively. And defensively, I will give you my most charitable read of the situation, because there are things that I do think, like on offense we'll get to, that are below the standard of how we operate and absolutely need to be addressed the way Marcus wants. But you mentioned a lot of it there. We started 2 true freshmen and a redshirt freshman in a game where we were also missing the best player on our defense because of injury, a grad transfer from Alabama, and one of our defensive captains at safety because of a targeting call on Adon Schuler, who was out in the first half. And so all that plus a 2-hour rain delay, where remember, most of that mayhem happened after with that drive. And so all of those young players were going through that in their first meaningful game action of the season, for the majority of them, in roles that they're not used to. I'm not saying it's all excusable. It's not. But if you say that out loud to yourself and then go back to what we just watched, Jess, it kind of makes sense. I know we got spoiled with Leonard and Christian playing as well as they did early last year in Notre Dame secondary, but they had a lot of veteran leaders that they could rely on in key spots that don't live here anymore. So I do just want to offer that out and say that out loud therapy-wise, so we all kind of hear it and realize, hey, maybe expecting them all to go and put the clamps on them right away might not be totally realistic.
That is right. So I'm going to read to you what Marcus Freeman said in his press conference now, which was not, we've got young guys starting, they got valuable experience, they'll get better from this, etc. Instead, he said this: the second half of the defense, I thought after the 2-minute drive, which that's the only one that really hurt us. That drive, we tried cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4. What happens is you start to panic and you start to say, okay, this coverage isn't working, let's try this. This isn't working, let's try this. And then you're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. They're going to make some plays, and you got to trust that, hey, this is what our game plan is. This is what we can do and execute. And then you got to trust your players to go out there and get it done. I thought after that, they did a really good job until the last drive, and I felt awful, blah, blah, blah. So he seems genuinely stressed out, not just about the coverage, but what we've talked about before, which is that the coverage and the pass rush are together. And when the pass rush is not really getting to the quarterback and the coverage is going to have to stay with their players a beat longer, it's not working. They're not able to do that. And yes, obviously there are young players. I thought when I rewatched that drive right before halftime that Purdue scored the touchdown pass to Nitro Tuggle on that he's talking about there.
Sick name.
Awesome name. Former Georgia wide receiver, of course. It wasn't just that Notre Dame's pass rush was not getting home. It was also that there were, especially on the touchdown pass, it didn't look like Notre Dame was even ready to defend a touchdown pass. It looked like they thought Purdue was maybe going to hand it off and set up a field goal. And that to me is coaching. They're not prepared that the quarterback might take a shot into the end zone there. And so Mark Zachary, who's on Tuggle, I believe they're playing in a zone. Stroman was up high. Zachary stays with his assignment. He gets beat, but there's no safety help there. And it's just a blatantly bad call, bad execution, bad everything. And that happened multiple plays in a row for Purdue to get downfield. And I just it is putting them in bad positions when you don't have players that are able to not get beat by wide receivers, which you're right, we're spoiled, but also players up front that are not able to actually make an impact on those plays. Purdue went down and did that so quickly. They didn't even use their timeout, Mike. They didn't even use their timeout because every single play was a gain of at least 4 or 5, a lot of big chunk plays. And then they were already in the end zone.
Yeah, listen, it's not great. And what Marcus highlighted there to me is the issue is last year we were really, really good at doing that one thing, right? Defensively, we played man coverage and we blitzed you. And we imposed our will and did that. And when you go out there, it's the I forget the line, but having a team that feels that confident in what they're going out and executing because they've repped it so much matters. Now, all of a sudden, when you're trying all those different things, you're going out there and maybe you've only repped one of those a certain number of times. Maybe you've got guys that are a little bit more comfortable with one thing than the other. I don't know, but that's always my worry with me, especially with young guys. Like, they're trying to figure out how to do anything well. And so to go out there and do all of that, again, I have never played defensive back, but if I'm going to
I have.
this
Let me
into
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Well, if I'm going to compute this into my position, though, like as an offensive lineman, my senior year, we had 6 running plays that we ran. But we ran the piss out of them because we had drilled them. We knew how to operate them in every circumstance. We were ready to go. And so we were going to execute those at an incredibly high level, no matter the situation around us, versus a team that wants to scheme a million things or do a bunch of different stuff. And you can only rep so much in practice. So you can only be so good at any one of those things if you've got to account for all of them. And so what I came away from this game thinking is, late in the game, you saw, and I put it out on Twitter, it was the 52nd play of the game. It was like the third of the fourth quarter. Notre Dame busted off some of the fine china from last year, where they ran one of those all-out 6-man pressures that had a bunch of movement. It gave Bryce Young his first sack of the year because they had isolated a one-on-one matchup for him. And I thought, okay, that is still what we can be. There is still some of that heartbeat in there. Because, to your point, Jess, 3 games in, we got to acknowledge, 4-man pass rush, I don't know if it's going to get there this season. I was wrong on that. I thought we had the personnel for it. It does not appear that we do at this point. They did some nice tweaks in the second half where, again, instead of doing like games between the D tackle and the D end, they had the D tackles kind of start to switch places and get a little bit of pressure on the 4-man rush. But in general, our guys have not shown the ability to go up there and get wins in a straight 4-man rush. And so I think you've got to start to try and say, all right, if we're having trouble doing all this stuff, trying to sit back and play coverage, sitting in zone, or getting picked apart by quarterbacks that can scramble and move, we got to try and go back there and reestablish dominance and do that one thing that we did really well. Give these guys that we recruited to play in that style of defense. When they're all getting recruited, it was in that style of defense where you want guys that are big, rangy athletes to go out here, get physical and man coverage, get downhill and raise hell. I wonder if we're going to see that emphasized going forward of, hey, we've got to try and at least go back to that one thing that we could do right, because at this point, our personnel sort of demands it. We do not have the horses up front to go and apply pressure just rushing for. And I don't think that's a thing that's going to get a ton better during the course of the season, especially against some of the teams that we're going to face. And so you've got to go out there and try to scheme them up some one-on-one chances to go and hunt the quarterback. That's just kind of, and on the back end, it helps to get the ball out quicker, and you're going to get burned sometimes. It is a high risk, high reward. It always was when Al Golden was calling it that way. But at this point, to me, it's what do you have to lose? Because you've been getting burned already. I saw Pete Sampson say that this is the second most points Notre Dame's having given up through the first 3 games of the season. Now, you have to account opponent in for that. They played 2 really good teams, but that's where we're at.
Yeah, right. The comparison there was 2007, which, more your era than mine. Notre Dame did play some solid teams to start that year. But 2016, Notre Dame gave up over 90 points to like Texas, Nevada, and like a bad Michigan State team, if I recall. So, and also like that Texas game also includes overtime, which doesn't necessarily help the case, but it's not quite what I think Miami and Texas A&M will be this season. But, and to your point about like not being successful in like straight up pressures, like Notre Dame did dial up a TE stunt in the first half after the delay with Donovan Heinisch, and he was able to sack the quarterback and then force them to kick a field goal. Like, some of those things are working, but it just feels like it's been, I don't know, you don't see it often enough.
It's not consistent enough. And so again, now that we've got a 3-game sample size against some good teams to say that, I think this is where you start to try and adjust. Because again, I'm not asking Notre Dame to do things they haven't put on tape somewhat already, but it just hasn't been frequent enough. Like, I went back and looked at it, just isolating third down, and every third down in this last game that wasn't a 3rd and short or a 3rd and 15 plus, where like I get rushing 3 or 4 when it's 3rd and 15 plus and playing coverage and just coming up. Like, it's a situation. And I took out the 4th quarter and we called 2 pressures. And one of them, and like, also it's how you pressure, right? Like, one of them was just, hey, we're going to twist the ends and tackles and we're going to add 1 linebacker downhill. Like, that's not going to overly stress it. So I think That, I think, personnel-wise, still I have some questions about how guys are being used in certain situations. Like, I don't know what Jaylen Smith did behind the scenes to not be one of the linebackers that is consistently being hurled at opposing quarterbacks on these blitz looks. And so I think they're still kind of working some of that out during the course of this season. But I do think a more aggressive approach, and we'll see if Marcus Freeman, I know there's a lot of people online that started to wonder about, did Marcus Freeman do anything with play calling in the second half? I watching the film outside of that one play didn't see enough to where I can speak to that. I don't have any information on that, so I'm certainly not going to insinuate. But you do wonder if all of a sudden he starts to put his thumb on the scale a little bit going forward in terms of the mix that they see on that side of the ball.
Right. Like, not call the plays, but just say, like, this is how I want to play. Which we would think would be a conversation before Chris Ash is hired. But I will maybe dissect that at a later date. My point about Carson Hobbs kind of remains the fact that he didn't record a single snap according to the snap counts I'm looking at. Like, Mark Zachary and Christian Gray played the entire game at corner. Dallas Golden played 65 snaps. The fact that, like, you're a guy who didn't start against Miami, but played a lot against Miami and then started against Texas A&M is just not out there. And maybe he's hurt and, like, just not on the injury report. I don't really know. But, like, that's weird to me that they're now starting a true freshman over him, right?
Again, I think at this point they're trying things. And part of it, I think the subtext of this is it's Purdue. And so if you want to get guys healthy, these guys should be able to go out and beat Purdue based on what we can do offensively. And so, like, the decisions to Leonard Moore was in street clothes. He was never going to play. Devontae Smith was in pads and warming up and was a true game time decision and didn't end up going here. Hopefully another week helps those guys to get healthier because we're going to need them. I do think it's worth repeating. The defense looks a lot different when your best player is out there and you've got two other veterans in the secondary in Adon Schuler and Devontae Smith. So that is a real part of this conversation.
Yeah, and Tay Johnson ended up getting the start and played most of the game at safety. So they are making adjustments there where they're seeing, like, okay, this is actually, like, this is the kind of athlete, like we talked about last week, like, we need him on the field. Like, he can actually make a big difference. He's going to create those plays, but maybe is a little bit more boom or bust because, like you said, redshirt freshman, like, he doesn't have a ton of experience. So, like, they're making a lot of personnel adjustments, some because of injury, some I think because of, I guess, continued talent evaluation. I don't really understand Jaylen Smith getting like 14 snaps in this game. That's weird to me. He's like, your senior most linebacker. He was had a great season last year. I don't really know about that, but there has been also contributions by transfer. So, like, credit to that. Like, Elijah Hughes had a really good game in the middle. I don't know, Mike. I'm trying to figure it out. I think you're right. I think, like, maybe if this week is Texas A&M, maybe we do see Devontae Smith, like, try to go. Maybe we do see Leonard Moore try to go. And then this just becomes like, we know we can win with freshmen. We'll be fine. But it's still just, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence when you see a drive like that at the end of halftime and just see the coverages that the defense is calling and the lack of physicality and aggressiveness, because a lot of the times, like, they are just kind of like playing in this weird soft zone, and maybe like one player is turning his shoulders the wrong way at one time, and then that's creating an entire, like, cascading effect where now the safety's got to come in and help. They might be a step too far behind. They're playing 10 yards behind the wide receivers when the snap,
Jess,
like, there's
these
so
guys
much.
haven't done this together before. Like, I do think part of it is we all need to take a deep breath.
No.
These guys haven't
I will
done
not
this
chill
before.
out. You will not make me chill out. This is my life, Mike. This is what I live for. I'm just kidding. You're right.
But I understand it. It's just, it's one of those things that, like, the more and more I've sat with it, I'm like, last year was last year. And we're having to get used to this year and the changes that have happened. And I don't want our total preoccupation with the defense to obscure what we're doing on offense right now that seems legitimately incredible and sustainable. So
let me interrupt you for 1 second and just say that because the offense is so awesome, I think it's making me more upset about the defense. I think that this offense has, going into the season, I thought the one thing that would hold Notre Dame back would be CJ Carr is good, but he's not good enough to win 11 or 12 football games, and he'll probably get better next year. But that has not been the case so far. The running backs are sick. CJ Carr is awesome. The O-line's better this week than last week and better last week than the week before. And like, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Malachi Fields is awesome. Like, there's so much good stuff on offense, Mike, that it's like the defense needs to get it together. And I'm not saying that I don't think they can. I'm not saying that. But right now, it has been frustrating to watch because I expected better from them. So like, as surprised as I am about the offense, I am just more disappointed because if you married this offense with a slightly better defense, this team's unstoppable.
Well, so allow me to reframe this for you after we take a quick break. We will come back. I will try and put on my rose-colored glasses as best I can here, and then we'll also take a little look ahead to Arkansas this coming weekend as well, right after this break.
Breakfast might be the most important choice you make all day. That's because with Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast, you can mix and match your very own perfect pairing of our delicious morning favorites.
With this breakfast deal, the choice is all yours, not someone else's. And isn't that how it should be? It's your breakfast after all, not Martha's. She can pick her own breakfast. This one's all you.
No matter what you choose, from our sausage biscuit with that grilled breakfast sausage or the egg and cheese biscuit with fresh cracked grade A egg and melty American cheese on a fluffy buttermilk biscuit, a small size of perfectly seasoned potatoes, or a medium hot coffee to power through the morning.
All you got to do is pick your ideal morning pair. You really can't lose because you're the one calling the shots. The choice is all yours. Wake up to Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast, just the way you want it.
Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. price and participation may vary. No substitutions. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
Welcome back to the Echoes Notre Dame podcast. Mike Golic Jr., Jessica Smetana. Download, subscribe, rate, review us at the Echoes ND Pod on all social media, wherever you can get our reaction. So, Jess, I understand the consternation about the defense based off last year, but I want to offer you this. Based on what we've seen now, Notre Dame's offense, while Purdue is not something I'm going to judge overly, we've seen our freshman quarterback go on the road against a Miami team that is now number 2 in the country per the latest AP polls, and also home against the Texas A&M defense coordinated by Mike Elko. Acquit himself largely very well out of a couple of small freshman moments that have popped up. And so, at this point with the season, I think looking at the identity of this year's team, the directive going forward needs to be, can Notre Dame's defense just get to average or above average? And if they can, I think Notre Dame's capable of winning the rest of their games on their schedule. Like, I think at this point, that's kind of where we've got to account for. The amount of young players that we've seen, the amount of injury that you brought up, none of those things are conducive to rapid growth early in the season. You're banking these moments for later on. But if between a maybe philosophical change in how they approach the play calling or the game planning and some of these young guys getting a little bit better, Leonard Moore obviously coming back and being healthy and being the best player on our defense, I think they're more than capable of going out there and being a good college defense as opposed to one of the best in the sport last year, and that being good enough based on the lift that we have on offense right now. Because just to your point, we may have the 2 best running backs, period, in college football right now, and that alone is going to get you through a lot of bad situations.
Let's talk about them for a second, because you're right. The first segment, I'm not proud of the way I acted. I'm not proud of myself for yelling at you, Mike, but you are absolutely correct that this offense is awesome, and Jadarian Price and Jeremiyah Love are 2 of the best backs in college football. We knew it coming into the season, but it is only proven more and more true by the week. And let's talk about that 100-yard kickoff return touchdown. Now, when you saw the flag, you were like, okay, this is coming back, right? But then when they lifted the flag, ultimate, like, what the heck? Like, now I feel like it's too late for me to celebrate because I was disappointed for the last 10 seconds and now it's a touchdown. Which one is it?
I always assume on a good punt return, kickoff return, that it's coming back. Like, it so rarely happens without someone doing something wrong that I'm always conditioned to go, okay, where's the flag? I always think of the poor returner who just worked so hard and ran so far to get there and then gets to celebrate with their friends. And then inevitably you see that shot on the camera where they turn around and they see the flag down on the field and they're so dejected. And so I always think of the roller coaster of emotions there for, in this case, Jadarian, who had a sensational return, is a superb athlete, and on 98% of the other football teams in the world is probably a legitimate Heisman candidate in his own right based on what he's been able to do as a player the last couple of years.
Yeah, and finished with 9 carries for 74 yards and 3 touchdowns plus the return. And Love finished with 19 carries for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, both of them didn't even play in the fourth quarter. Like, they just absolutely running up the field. And, our producer, Matt, shout out to him. He was right. He was like, Notre Dame's going to rush for 300 yards against Purdue. Absolutely spot on assessment. And as we look ahead to Arkansas, another team that has struggled in defending the run this season, I mean, Notre Dame's going to really have to lean on those guys. And the best part about being able to lean on those guys and having such a threat at running back is that it opens up so much for your offense. When CJ Carr is back there, only had 12 attempts in this game, Mike. He had 10 completions on 12 attempts for 223 yards in 3 quarters, 2 touchdowns, including that beautiful post route pass to Malachi Fields, the 66-yard pass on the opening offensive play of the game. Like, I can remember specific instances where Notre Dame does a deep shot like that on the first play of the game. I can't remember one where I knew from the start, this is a touchdown. Like, I know this is going to work because I know this player and this wide receiver, they can do that now. Like, it was just a beautiful thing to watch.
CJ Carr, the best pure passer we've had in a decade. Like,
he's doing things with the football that I've like forgotten that are capable of being done. And like, he's so young too, Mike. Like, it's been really, really impressive.
This is exactly what not only Notre Dame, but other programs around college football, when you look at Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, who bet on their in-house players, were hoping for, which is, if you hit, now all of a sudden you've got multiple years of stability at the most important position in the sport. And Notre Dame, like, I don't want to get too far ahead on this, but like, I've seen other people look and go and say, hey, why aren't more people talking about what CJ Carr is doing?
Yes.
Could be one of the best quarterbacks in the sport. And to have that, what appears to be a guy capable of playing the position at what looks like NFL level trajectory wise over the next couple of seasons, is an incredible win for Notre Dame, this staff, Marcus Freeman betting on his gut coming out of training camp, and now Mike Denbrock stringing together weeks where there's a really good game plan in place. There's some great designs like that shot play, like that throwback pass to Will Pauling the second week in a row. We've had one of those cool gadget plays that's going to end up getting broken down on Twitter by a bunch of people. And so the offense feels like it's in a great place vibes-wise right now.
Vibes-wise, like, vibes are through the roof, because even Kenny Minchie coming in, like, and like, maybe my best take of my life after week 1. If CJ Carr is this good, Kenny Minchie must be awesome. I mean, Kenny Minchie played really well coming in relief in the fourth quarter and just slinging it around. Like, had a very efficient, I think he only had like 7 completions on 8 attempts for around 58 yards, something like that. But like, he's mobile. He can move really well. He was throwing it well. Like, he clearly like understands the offense. And this is all with like second string guys too, like third string guys out there. So a really, really nice job by the Notre Dame quarterbacks on Saturday.
It's so impressive. And how the play calling has changed. Now, again, some of this I do account for. Like, this is an opponent I feel like they knew exactly what we talked about on here. We'd be able to win this game by handing it off to our backs. But you look at the last couple of weeks, the adjustment for the Texas A&M game sort of carried over here, right? Less of the RPO stuff. It's a lot more, hey, we're going to give our backs a chance to go out here and impact this game in pure design runs. And then we're going to let our quarterback drop back and do it in a bunch of different ways. There were great design rollouts. There were straight drop back passes. There were plays where it appeared CJ had checks before at the line of scrimmage that he could be in control of. It's just a fully formed offense right now. I mean, Eli Raridan, I don't think had a catch in this game.
Yeah, and neither did, I don't think Greathouse had one either.
No.
But yes, like they're definitely like spreading it out to a lot of players, and mostly outside, it seems like. He's not doing a lot of stuff in the middle. And like, there was also, I think, I don't remember how many yards he averaged per completion, but like, Eli Raridan was not even needed, because like every ball was going deep. Like, and like, obviously you can play your tight end that way, but he did not need to check down on very many plays.
The great development for Notre Dame, like, we knew running backs are going to be great. offensive line, it's still getting there. This is another better performance for them.
Yeah.
I love how Gerby Lambert's been developing. I think it's very interesting to note going forward when Anthony Knapp went down. Gerby Lambert's our first tackle on both sides when someone goes down. He's the swing guy, and then they'll go and put, I'm forgetting the other right guard's name right now, Sullivan Absher.
Yeah.
So they'll put Sullivan in at right guard, and they would move Gerby to tackle, which I think is interesting to keep in mind for whenever Charles comes back, how this is going to look. I think there'll be an interesting conversation that I won't have now, but I think Gerby is in our best 5 when he comes back. So that's been really good. But Jess, at these other positions, like Ty Washington getting used more and us having more 12 personnel available to us, huge. And what Eli Raridan and Jordan Faison do as blockers outside of just their pass catching responsibility, I cannot stress enough how impressive it is and how important that is and how multifaceted it makes our offense going forward. Like all of the plays that Mike Denbrock is going to call are built off the fact that those guys in particular are so willing and able to go and do the dirty work on the other plays the way they did in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will add one nice thing about the defense because like I said, didn't cover myself in glory in the A block there, Mike. The run defense has been good. Like Maccabee, the Purdue running back, like he's a feisty guy. They held him to 16 yards on 12 carries. And like the run defense against Texas A&M was also good. Like, obviously Le'Veon Moss is like coming back from an ACL. He's probably not 100% yet, but like, I think Notre Dame's rushing defense has been okay. I think really like what our issues are, we've already discussed, but like, it's fine. And like, I really do think, Mike, you take out that crappy drive and the garbage time touchdown, I maybe feel totally differently about this. But the fact is that I don't care about the garbage time touchdown. That doesn't matter to me. But the play before
it was a sick throw too, which we also need to acknowledge. Like a couple of those were dots.
Yeah.
Like the quarterback just put the ball in a great spot and these guys made plays and they're on scholarship too. But yes, you're right. Just those plays happen. And so we've got to reckon with them the same way the staff and everyone involved is.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay. I feel a lot better now. I mean, and I'm curious to see how Purdue's back on the schedule in 2026. Notre Dame's got them in Michigan State's back on the schedule next year. And like you said, like Barry Odom they hired him because he will hopefully be able to sort of like rehabilitate this. They have some good wide receivers. They're not like a bunch of scrubs out there. They're a solid team. We'll see. I feel very differently about Purdue than I do about like Miami, where I was like, I hope Miami loses every game. I don't care if it makes Notre Dame's like strength of record better or worse or whatever. I hope Purdue wins a couple games in the Big Ten this year. Like they almost upset Illinois last year. It would be nice to see them win a few in conference.
Like you said, feisty. I mean, that first touchdown, the play design there of a zone read throwback to the quarterback
made me so mad.
It was one of those, I was angry. Like I was watching this game at a wedding this weekend too, which I felt so bad for everyone around me because I was just not the best version of myself. But after that play, I couldn't even be mad. I was like, that's pretty sick. And that's going to get you like 99% of the time.
And it did make me also text you, hey, we are going to lose to Navy, which is not like the most sane fan reaction, but like it did give me like a little bit of like that was a little undisciplined by the defense there, just letting that guy loose on the outside. But yeah, I'm a freak.
It was. Can we give a couple of shout outs coming off this game for some of the great performers? We already mentioned offensively a lot of the guys that we really liked in this game. Got to look late in this game at a couple of the young players on there. And while the ball ended up bouncing off the defender's head, Bettis got loose out there on that go ball. Like I know Mike Denbrock kind of name checked him in the press conference coming out of camp saying he's a guy that still doesn't quite know where he needs to be on the field within the offense. You saw a little bit of the ability flash there. The same for KK Smith, who also got in this game a little bit late, like Micah Gilbert. I wanted
that to be a Burris touchdown so bad, Mike. I wanted it to be one of my friends who writes a Notre Dame newsletter, Chris, said the same thing. If Angeli, Minchie, and Carr all scored on the same day in college football, that would have been absolutely electric, and we were deprived of that. So that stinks. But you're right. Like it was.
Sorry, that was Elijah Burris. My bad.
It's all right. Yeah. I mean, different Nepo Steelers, baby. It was a really exciting fourth quarter, and like. Yeah, no, like it wasn't as lopsided as last year where Notre Dame ends up playing all of their quarterbacks and every single player in the second half. But like it was good to see at least your starters come out, like all new offensive line, like just everyone kind of getting in the mix there and getting some game reps.
speaking of getting in the mix defensively, got our first look at linebacker at Madden Faraimo.
Yeah.
Who ended up having the tip pass on a man coverage on a running back that ended in an interception there. So, I mean, you look, him and Dallas Golden both being a part of turnover-worthy plays. Dallas obviously has a great leaping interception late in that game. And you can see, like, some of the athleticism for these guys. That is the reason they were highly recruited, the reason that these coaches believed they needed to have some reps on this defense. And they went out and rewarded that opportunity with some big plays. So I'm sure even as we get healthier on that side of the ball, we're going to see more of those two.
Yeah, definitely. One other thing I wanted to mention before we move on to talking about Arkansas a teeny bit here. The rain delay was 2 hours long. A lot of fans had to leave the stadium and shelter at like the Joyce Center and Mendoza or whatever, and then come back. I thought that the crowd seemed really awesome even after the 2 hour delay. And that's the kind of thing that, like, it was still relatively close, like right before halftime. Not, Notre Dame doesn't have a huge lead there, but that's the kind of thing where like maybe you check out and you leave and go home if you're a Notre Dame fan. But it was nice to see like a lot of people still in the stadium afterwards. You could hear the crowd on TV. And so that made me really happy that people stuck around, because 2 hour delays suck and it ruins your plans. It ruins your life. But it was very, very nice to see a lot of people stick around.
2 hour delays are awful. Weather delays are awful. As a veteran of the South Florida weather delay that ended in a loss for us, like, you go back, you get completely out of your pads. Like, some guys will shout, like, you almost have to completely restart the game, which is a big time mind bleep. You also, and this is where being at home is great, because you're not going to run out of food. Like, they can always send them for more. We've seen other teams, whether it's college or the NFL, who will hit a rain delay and all of a sudden, like, be out of food. I think it might have been CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys that was just walking around the hallway, like, trying to flag people down, looking for food in their game. So having an endless supply of Uncrustables and all the other things that you try and munch on during those, A+ for that moment here. By the way, Jess, also, before we turn the page, tip of the cap, Purdue special teams, hoisted by our own petard. Our aggressiveness as rushing the punt gives way to a fake punt for a first down in this game. Nothing you could do. Notre Dame is going to continue to be aggressive, trying to go after kicks. I love that part of us. We had a kick return touchdown in this game. We had also a freshman kicker in this game going out there.
Yeah.
Eric Schmidt, 0 for 1 on field goals, 1 kickoff out of bounds early in the game. But other than that, made the extra points, did his job there. Hopefully that's not a long-term thing, but special teams usually always just kind of like a plus for Notre Dame. This game, they'll actually have a minus to coach up for them.
Yeah, definitely. And Noah Burnett is out for, I don't know how long, but Marcus did say with the field goal, it was like, I think it was fourth and short, and Denbrock wanted to go for it, but he wanted to give him a live rep in a game, which is, that's a coaching decision. That's fine. Like, he said after the game, he'll be better for it, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, frustrating to see as a fan, because you would just want to see Notre Dame just pour it on at that point. But, like, it's fine. It didn't matter.
It's another one of those things, like, that's a mature decision from Marcus Freeman and an opportunity and a reminder of, like, and this goes back to the whole conversation about, people wanting him to take over play calling or anything like that on defense. I really like how Marcus has developed as a game day head coach, as a CEO at the helm of all of this, the decisions that he's making around this. And part of that comes with feeling like you can empower your coordinators so that you can focus on all that other stuff. And I think we continue to see signs that he's done a really great job in that development. There's a lot to like there. So it was a frustrating game in some ways, but ultimately Notre Dame finally off the schneid, 1-2 for this season. Moved up a couple of spots in the AP top 25 poll. I think we're currently number 22,
we're just
right
behind
in front
Vanderbilt.
We're just behind Vanderbilt in the coaches poll.
Oh.
We're just behind USC in the AP top 25. They're at 21. So Notre Dame, another ranked opponent on their schedule coming up this season. And it looks like USC will be ranked at the time of that game in South Bend, and just ahead of Illinois, buddy.
Yeah, wow.
Illinois, tough weekend for them. Kurt Signetti gets to talk his shit after this one. No doubt about that. Jess, road trip coming up.
Yeah.
Notre Dame heading down to an unfamiliar opponent in Arkansas. Sam Pittman's bunch now on a 2-game losing streak. Lost to Ole Miss and then a loss late against Memphis this last weekend, which honestly, I don't love. I want every team we play rolling in, feeling good, fat and happy off a win. So they're, I'm sure, going to have an edge about them going into this week.
Yeah, they're 2-2, and their 2 wins have been to like a couple not super competitive teams, non-Power 4 teams. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Like their quarterback, Jaylon Green, we've talked about, he's very dynamic, and he's just sort of like, he's just like an electric player. I don't know how else to describe him. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, honestly, but he is prone to making mistakes. And like there was one play in the Memphis game this past weekend where he threw it straight at a Memphis DB, and the Memphis DB dropped it. And then the next play, he threw it straight back at the same guy, and that time he caught it, and it was an interception. So like there's turnovers, there's a lot of things that go wrong, but this is like Sam Pittman coaching for his job in some respects. Like they were very bad 2 years ago, like I think 4-8, and then last year had a little bit of a rebounding performance, went 7-6. And so this is a home game. It's a noon kickoff. Notre Dame's just going to really have to lock in on defense. And I think that if they're able to do that, the offense should be able to score on this team. They should be able to run the ball well. They should be able to pass well. Arkansas's pass defense was pretty bad in 2024. They have really only played like one excellent passing attack this year. I guess Ole Miss is sort of injury issues also, so a little hard to kind of compare and contrast there. But Notre Dame should be able to run the ball in this game, and they should be able to score a lot of points. I am taking the overs until proven otherwise on every Notre Dame football game. But this is another data point for the defense. Like they have to be able to defend this type of quarterback now. Obviously, Purdue's quarterback he moved around, but he wasn't really a rushing threat. Marcel Reed, way more of a running threat. Notre Dame contained him, I thought, pretty well, and just where they struggled is the pass rush. And so they've got to just be able to figure something out up there and then marry those two together, like Marcus Freeman has said. And then I think there's a recipe there for winning this football game.
No doubt. I think you can see the vision, but the difficulty is what you just described. So it is another mobile quarterback. Last week, even in Purdue, we talked about not being as adept as Marcel Reed, but whenever he scrambled, whether it was to run or to set up a pass, there were openings there, and Notre Dame's defense clearly had issues with that. And it does make it a little harder to do what I talked about earlier is, hey, if you want to go a little bit more all in on this aggressive mindset where you play more man and you send more guys, that's even riskier against a mobile quarterback. Like you're less incentivized to do that because man coverage gives you big gaps at the second level where all of a sudden if he squirts through, everyone's got their backs turned. Certainly rush lane integrity becomes really important in a game like this where you want guys to maintain the structure of that pass rush so that he doesn't have places to escape to and seems that he can go and infiltrate. So it's a tough balance going into this week to try and say, hey, we want to reset and be more like we were last year if that was the edict or if that's even what we just want as fans versus what they're staring at in an opponent and what defending a quarterback like this in particular that, I've interviewed Sam Pittman this offseason and he talked about it. He's like, as long as we've got this guy at quarterback, we feel like we have a chance. So that's the sun and the moon for them. And so how the Notre Dame defense addresses that, even with what we know have been the deficiencies in mind, is going to be that fascinating point of tension going into this week.
And I will add, he's a big quarterback. Like, bringing him down is not easy. Yes. Whereas, like, we're talking about dual threat quarterbacks and comparing him to Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed's a little bit smaller. Taylor Reed's 6'6", 230. Like, he's big. And even if you do get him to scramble, roll out, whatever, like, he can throw on the move. Like, it may not be 100% accurate all the time, but, like, he can move around in there. So yes, this is definitely a different kind of test. I do believe I believe in his ability to get a team to play well on the road, to be fired up, to come into an SEC stadium and win the football game. I just really think like this is a game where the defense has to be disciplined and they have to, like you said, protect the rush lanes, etc., and not give up huge chunk plays like you're going to give up some, and that's okay. You have to recover and not give up multiple in a row.
Absolutely. Notre Dame at the time of this recording right now, on one book I'm checking, 5.5-point road favorite against Arkansas at this point. So we will wait and see how that holds. A very interesting challenge for them coming off the first win of the season. We've talked a lot about defensive adjustments on this show. So coming up next, we thought we would invite one of the best Notre Dame defenders in recent history on to talk a little bit about that, what he's got going on. Former Notre Dame linebacker Jaylen Smith going to stop by for a few minutes of conversation while he's in transit today at the airport with us next here on The Echoes. Welcome back to The Echoes at The Echoes ND Pod on all social media. Check out the YouTube page as well so you can see us as we writhe in anguish after every one of these games here. This is us after a win, and we're still not the best version of ourselves. maybe it'll get better if we string two together this week. Jess, before we get to our interview with Jaylen Smith, former Notre Dame All-American linebacker, we do shout out a lot of former Irish players, whether in the pros or with other teams. And this one, just a really sad day, and sending well wishes to Steve Angeli, former Notre Dame backup, who had been doing a phenomenal job. Going into this week, was the leading passer in college football at Syracuse at the helm for Fran Brown's squad. And they author the upset of Clemson, who's been in a downward spiral this whole start of the season. But unfortunately, Steve lost for the year due to injury in this game. And so certainly well wishes for him. Guy who waited his turn, was making the most of his opportunity. And just a reminder of how unfair this game can be at times.
Yeah, it's terrible. I feel terrible for him. It should have been a day of celebration because, man, Syracuse came out swinging. He was throwing the ball all over the place. It was awesome to watch. And then he went down after a similar rain delay situation. And it just sucks. I feel really awful for him. So hope he makes a full recovery and is back next year and keeps playing football, and we get to see him play somewhere else now, or maybe stay at Syracuse. Who knows? I feel terrible for him, though.
Hopefully. But yeah, again, Bruce Feldman tweeted yesterday, is expected to miss the rest of the season because of an Achilles injury suffered in that game. So, Steve, we're rooting for you, man. Best of luck in the recovery. Always a big fan of what he did at Notre Dame, and was loving the fact that he got the opportunity to go out there and live the rest of his dream as a guy impacting winning for Syracuse there. So tough one, but great win for Q's, great start to the season for him, and lots to build on. Like you said, hopefully he can come back better and healthy next season and ready to go. So tough one there. But Jess, we've mentioned it. We've teased it a couple of times already. So let's get to him right now. Former Notre Dame linebacker and current South Bend small business owner, Jaylen Smith, stopped by, and here's what he had to say. All right, very excited to welcome in Notre Dame legend, former All-American linebacker, Butkus Award winner, and a second-round NFL draft pick by the Dallas Cowboys, Jaylen Smith, kind enough to join us here now. Jaylen, what's going on, man? How you doing?
And I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be speaking to you all this morning. Excited for the show.
Jaylen, your name in our like Zoom thing here is just smooth. It is just the unbelievable amounts of swag oozing out of this right now. And honestly, Mike and I need that on a Monday morning. So thank you for joining us.
Nah, appreciate that. It's actually a childhood nickname. So
okay,
it just it's flowed.
Honestly, the fact that you've lived up to it, I have not had a lot of nicknames, and certainly none of them as cool as that. So a testament to you. Notre Dame fans, certainly not surprised that's the nickname there. And Notre Dame fans, Jaylen, today feeling pretty good coming off a victory against Purdue. I know you were back on campus for the Texas A&M game. I'm sure you've, like a lot of Notre Dame fans, sort of kept up with it. What's your impression of the team been early on through this season?
The biggest thing is we got to start fast. And first 2 weeks, that was something that we struggled with. And with the coaching staff that we have, it's all about adapting and overcoming. So that's what we've seen on display, versus Purdue, which, Purdue is our little brother. They always going to give us a battle. And we got to figure out a way to make it happen at the end. But it was exciting to get some points on the board early. And I'm just excited to see how we continue to grow, for sure.
What do you like about being back on campus for football games? And obviously a lot has changed in the stadium since you were a player. We have a Jumbotron now, alcohol sales, obviously. But what have you noticed is the biggest difference since you played at Notre Dame Stadium?
Being back home it's electric. Like, I remember after I left campus, and 3 years after my third year in the league, we lost. I was playing with the Dallas Cowboys, and we lost in the second round of the playoffs. The very next week, I entered classes again because I had one semester left to finish my degree. Yes, I went back to graduate from the University of Notre Dame, and the weather was so cold. And even me being from Fort Wayne, Indiana, living in Dallas for 3 years, you get used to that weather. So it's negative 12 degrees, snow. I'm walking through campus to get to class. And one thing I noticed was there was a lot of more construction. So seeing a lot of the things develop, there's new dorms, there's additions to the stadium. Like, I love it. When I was there, we didn't turn off the lights before the game, started and have the whole effect. So I think it's needed. just with evolution. But those who know Notre Dame, we still honor and respect the tradition of the house that Rockne built. So definitely excited to be a part of it. I actually opened my own restaurant on Eddy Street, right across the street from campus. And it's called Jenya Ramen Bar. So if you're going to a Notre Dame game this year or you're near South Bend, please come check me out.
I was going to say, did you ever think while you were on campus in a million years you would be back as an entrepreneur and restaurant owner around South Bend's campus? Was that ever on the radar for you?
So I never wanted to be remembered as just being a great football player. I've wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was like 12 years old. And a big reason why I chose to go to Notre Dame was a global entity. And the institution, the relationships that you meet, they last forever. There's a cliche thing of like 4 for 40. But it really holds up. I remember my sophomore year of high school. My sophomore year at Notre Dame, studying abroad, going to South Africa for 3 weeks. I'm waking up in the morning to go on a run, and I see someone in South Africa with Notre Dame hat on. I'm like, this is crazy. But it just lets you know that like the network is so strong, and anybody that's a Golden Domer, you can appreciate the effects and everything that's going on in South Bend. And as far as on the football side of things, we love having Marcus Freeman. But I also remember my junior year at Notre Dame on Eddy Street after a Notre Dame victory. The only thing that was open is like Five Guys and Brothers.
Yeah.
But like, I wasn't 21 at the time, so you can't drink or none of that stuff. But I always said, like, one day I'm going to bring a restaurant concept to Eddy Street. So, you just got to see it with a clear-eye view,
Jaylen, obviously when you were at Notre Dame, you were the king of the havoc plays, the tackles for loss, pass breakups, interceptions, sacks, the things that this Notre Dame team struggled with a little bit this year. So what are some of the keys to doing that you really focused on that made you good at that?
A lot of it is about attention to detail. When you're out on the field, you're not playing alone. You have a group of teammates that's there for you. And the more that they can increase their belief capacity that, okay, my brothers can count on me and I can count on them, and it allows you to play more freely. And that's really what I see. The togetherness will come when they believe in each other. And you've seen it brewing a little bit on Saturday. So we just got to continue that going from coach to player, from player to coach. It's very important for me. I always asked questions. I always valued the culture and the chemistry of the team. Time together after study table. Like all of these different things like attributed to in the fourth quarter when it's 3rd and 5 and 4th and 7 and you got to make the play to win the game. Okay, I'm looking next to my brother that I just ate some food with or I had some study table with. Now we can go out and execute. And that's what I loved about it. So they're gonna continue to get it right. They're gonna continue to get it right. I don't think with Coach Marcus Freeman, his leadership, what he stands for, his values. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that we're gonna fix this thing for sure.
We want to thank Jaylen for stopping by. If any other former Butkus Award winners or just any, former Notre Dame players want to stop in and chat with us while you're traveling, please send us a DM. Speaking of DMs, Mike, we like to put out a call out for, fan questions and see what people are thinking, what they want us to answer. Pretty much every single comment we got this week was along the lines of fire Chris Ash. We've spent a lot of time on this podcast already addressing Notre Dame's defense. So, next week, guys, please ask slightly more. First of all, question form is best, but slightly more specific things I think are a little bit better. But I totally understand where the fan sentiment is coming from there. And of course, you heard me in the first section of this podcast. I share these sentiments with you. I am also freaking out. you should never feel like this after a Purdue blowout, Mike. And yet here we are, because we are sick people, and this is, our passion. This is what our lives revolve around. So totally understand that. But yes, we'll do more questions next week for sure.
Yes, I would say we will get to plenty of those. We understand if you need a place to shout into the void, those DMs can also be that. But yeah, we'll try and look at the glass half full this week. Being a Notre Dame fan can do this to you over a long period of time. I understand it. So we'll all enjoy this week as best we can. We'll look forward to Arkansas.
I'm nervous.
Jess, I'm always nervous.
I don't feel good about it.
It's like the Bruce Banner line in the Avengers where it's like, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. It's like, that's my secret, guys. I'm always nervous about every game that Notre Dame plays, and will be in perpetuity. But we'll be back here to break it all down next week, answer more of your questions, and cover this incredibly interesting Notre Dame season thus far. Thanks so much. Go Irish.
Go Irish.